Yeah. I am resident of Collinwood, late as always, joined by my buddy Butcher Rosenbalm and my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to discuss the movie The Terminator, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Michael Bay. Holy shit, what a movie. A sci-fi slasher, if you will. Butch, when did you first see this?
Joel, actually, I was trying to remember that today. If I remember correctly, it was the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's of 1986, because I went to my cousin's house, and I think it was when I got my first two wisdom teeth taken out and was still on some pain meds. And as we got over there, they were like, "Here, you go to the bedroom, you can go to sleep," because the pain medicine they had me on, man, it just knocked me out. Well, woke up, I don't know how long later. It was dark, and VHS tapes were starting to really be in everybody's house, and I just happened to randomly pick this one up, put it in, and I was just like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, Patrick, when did you first see this?
I saw it when it came out. I had a friend of mine. He was a neighbor, and he was my age, but he was really seriously into bodybuilding. He had decided that was the thing he was going to do. And I knew him before and knew him after. And so for a while, just because it was all he talked about, I was really clued into the bodybuilding world. I could talk about who Joe Weider was. And this is before he was more of a household name than he is now, I guess. And I could, talk about Rachel McLish and all these other people. And so, if Arnold, broke wind, it was news. Mm-hmm. And so I'd been hearing about this movie for a while. And it was, so I saw it opening weekend in the theaters. And it was extremely impressive.
Cool. I saw this on VHS in 1990. Very, very good movie. So, Linda Hamilton, they cast her in a big role here because they needed a name, really. And really, at this point in time, she's a bigger name than what Schwarzenegger is because he's not there yet, but this is going to make him a name. This performance.
What had she done up to this point?
A couple different movies, I believe.
Okay. Well, it could be. I'll tell you. My memory of the time is that I didn't know who Linda Hamilton was, but Arnold had already made Conan.
Yeah.
And that was a big movie. I don't know, but Butch, how well do you remember Arnold being when this came out?
Somewhat same as you. People knew Conan. I think most everybody called him Arnold. They called him Arnold because nobody could say his last name, and I hate to say it, I don't know how serious he was taken at the time, man. I'm gonna say, I don't think I'd heard of Linda Hamilton by then.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's okay, voice in the background. I'm sorry. I was just being honest.
So this has an element of time travel into it. You see the machine arrive. You see Michael Baine's character arrive. Reese, and he's going to deliver one of the best. He delivers a really great line in this movie that he doesn't get enough credit for. But before we completely play spoiler, what really shocked you most about this movie when you first saw it?
Probably just the story in general, specifically the Terminator, the like when Arnold is popping his eye out and when he's working on his arm, and at the end when we have the slasher villain come back and it's just a skeleton. At the time, I had just really started getting special effects. I could tell how some of them were done, but still it was just, wow, how are they doing this? This must have cost millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick?
I would say the gleeful brutality of the violence in the movie, even though you don't see a lot of the bullets hit and things like that. Just, when he goes to the one woman who opens the door, it's things like that. And you see him firing the gun just point blank and things like that. That's what really struck me when I saw the movie. The the Terminator doing the maintenance on himself and the practicalities of that. I think it's a very visceral movie. From the nudity at the beginning to, him having to cut up his own face. For a movie about a machine, it is a very meaty movie. And I think that dichotomy is interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, can you guys hold on just a second? I need to do something real quick.
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I had to get that out of my system. I'm sorry.
But anyway, with
No idea.
the thing that shocked me most too is when you realize that this thing is a machine. When he is sort of taking off the sunglasses and operating on himself, and then you hear when Kyle Reese is arrested, and they're questioning him and questioning Linda Hamilton a lot differently than they're questioning him.
Sure.
That he's saying about, you still don't understand, do you? He'll find her. That's what he does. That's all he does. You can't stop him. It's one of the, you're like, God, he's absolutely right. They have no fucking clue. And that's really the biggest part of the terror too. Like, no one believes this dude. Because go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to agree with you. And the thing that works really well is the performance of the psychiatrist, because he is reacting very normally to this stuff. He is not out of line. He's not really rude to Kyle. And he's condescending, but that's more to entertain Linda Hamilton and Paul Winfield. And I really like that because suddenly I can see Kyle Reese through the eyes, once again, of normal people. Yeah. And without the context of all the Terminator stuff, he sounds crazy as a latrine rat.
Very similar to the scene coming many years later in Friday the 13th, Part 6, when Tommy Jarvis runs into the sheriff's office. You don't understand. Jason's alive. He's killing people. And they're all like, the hell are you talking about, son? Jason's dead. A very, very similar scene for me anyway. And it brings you, this movie's kind of wrapped you around and shown you enough that you know what's going on. You believe it. But it also then kind of brings you back out like, oh yeah, this is kind of silly. Who would believe this? And then it's like evidence. Reality comes and shoots them in the back as they try to run out of the police building with that. So,
and I love how there's a manhunt for the killer, for the man who massacred the police. Just crazy. Sure. But before all that happens, we do get the Terminator who Bill Paxton is the only actor to be killed by Predator, Terminator, and Alien. R.I.P. Bill Paxton, but still. What did you guys think? He just comes up and he's completely naked, and they're just like snapping their fingers. They have no idea what they're dealing with. And he just kills the first two guys, and the other guy's just like taking off his coat, like, here, take it. I don't want murdered. What did you guys think of that there?
It's funny. Now it exists more as, hey, there's Bill Paxton. That's really the only problem with it. I didn't realize he was in this. It had been so long since I had seen it. And I was like, yeah, I know who that is. I enjoyed this time through hearing all of these lines from both the movie and the franchise for the first time. But in later films, it's sort of the movie winking at the audience and saying, "Hey, I know you saw that first film. Congratulations. Here's a line. See if you recognize it," which is a little amateurish, but within the context of the movie, I mean, "Fuck you, asshole," I think is one of the first things he hears. I think that's Bill Paxton's line. And he's quoting either Oscar Wilde or Noel Coward. I don't know which one, but maybe Winston Churchill. But whatever it is, it's just an after dinner quip. It really, it works enough that it gets stored in his brain. And I didn't remember him hearing those things in the first part of the movie and then deploying them. There being payoffs later. That was cool.
Yeah.
This movie does that really well. I feel like it sets things up in multiple, like at the towards the beginning after Arnold's got the station wagon and he runs over the truck, little toy truck, and later a truck of the same model runs him over, and how and it sets up. There's films I feel like that try too hard to come up with catchy lines and Bond one-liners and quips. I mean, when Arnold leans in and he does the "I'll be back," I mean, that is such an iconic scene. But when you watch it in the context of the film, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Said, "I'll be back." Okay, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
And
that was a line that we really congratulated ourselves for remembering the second time we saw the movie. But the first time it was like, "Oh, what? Oh, that's what he meant." And I prefer it that way.
Yeah, I think the perfect denouement to that was in Expendables, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, where Arnold looks at Bruce Willis and goes, blah blah blah, "I'll be back," and Bruce Willis looks at him and go, "You've been back enough. I'll be back." And it's like, thank you. I mean, it was nice. Arnold, in my opinion, was showing his good instincts. He knew a catchy line helps people remember you, and "I'll be back" stuck for a while. I mean, it was in, I don't know how many more of his films.
It was an 80s thing.
Yeah, and it worked, but it wasn't an intentional. Okay, here's a catchy line.
Yeah, because it wasn't catchy. It was so mundane, and
Exactly.
yet then it had literally this tremendous impact.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, it did. What did you guys think about the Terminator? He goes into the gun shop and he starts requesting all these guns, and I love how he just shoots the shop owner. It's like so cool, and like, because he's stealing these guns, he's got no means to pay for them. He's a Terminator. He's a machine. God damn it! What did you guys think of that?
Well, it's
go
funny.
ahead.
It's sad. I like Dick Miller.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny. It's actually the movie I placed Dick Miller from Bucket of Blood, I think. It's like, hey, wait a minute, I've seen that guy before. That to me, that's Dick Miller. That should have been Dick Miller's autobiography. I've seen that guy.
I think it was.
Seriously, was it?
I think it's something like, "Hey, it's that guy," or something like that. Yeah.
It should have been. I mean, it does this film. What really blew my mind from a kid, I didn't realize how low budget this film is, and how skillfully, much like I saw it on Precinct 13, Escape from New York, low budget films they're worked on, and the people are working hard, and the movie transcends that low budget.
Oh,
and this does it really good. It just and then there's little points where he's like, what is it, phase plasma rifle with a 40-watt range. There's little, it's like you throw that in just to remind you, this is not Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, whoever at the gun shop.
No.
It just little thing, and the little flashbacks, like when Reese is asleep, and he has the nightmare back to when he got burned, and just little things that remind us of what's going on in this film and tease this really interesting world that I was much more interested in seeing. And everybody always coming back to save Sarah, save John. I was like, I want to see the war.
Cameron's very smart in that he picks one spectacular thing to show you. And that's, I guess, the big thing on the treads. Is that the hunter killer? Yeah, okay. So he went to Stan Winston and said, Stan, there's one model, or whoever he went to. You got to make it look great. Stan says, I read the screenplay. You're describing all sorts of things. Don't worry about that. Just give me the one thing. And he gives you that very early into the movie. And it's so realistic that then after that, all you need is to have it described. Because he's created an aesthetic. He's created a method of violence, a ruthlessness, a smoke in the air, all of that then you do the hard work. Yeah. And that's a really brilliant move.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So the Terminator, he's looking for Sarah Connor, and he starts, but no one knew what she looked like. They just knew the city she lived in, Los Angeles, and the Terminator does the logical thing. He starts going through the phone book. So does Kyle Reese, actually, too. They both did. Actually, when you notice the Terminator is not just looking at Sarah's name, but looking at John Connor as well. Like Sarah Connor, John, with two figures. I found that very interesting because I'm thinking, wait, the Terminator maybe thinks that John Connor is named after a guy, John Connor? Maybe, who knows?
Well, who the father was, so yeah, he could be named after John Connor.
Yeah, they don't know who the dad is. And he starts systematically going through the Sarah Connors, killing them. I have a funny feeling he did the same thing to the men. Perhaps. Who knows? But what did you guys think of that? Butch?
It's what a machine would do. It's very logical, and we start at point A. We've got multiple. Okay, here. We'll just keep going down. There is, according to IMDb.com, I can't remember if it's in the script. I think it's in the first, maybe not the shooting, but the first script. Sarah had an injury, a skiing injury, and she had 2 pins put into her leg. So after he would kill the other Sarah Connors, he'd cut open their leg to look for the pin.
Oh, that's smart.
Which, however, they didn't know how she got that. She ends up getting them at the end when he's chasing her. Her legs hurt. They put 2 pins in then. Yeah. And another one, vaguely predestination paradox. He's looking for something that he ends up causing.
Yeah. That's interesting. That is really interesting. What did you think, Patrick, of the phone book thing, him going through?
It just makes sense. I mean, this is a tight movie. This is in terms of its logic, it's a very conservative film. In that it keeps itself to a range of choices and possibilities that make sense, as paradoxical as they are. He doesn't go beyond that. He doesn't let himself, meaning James Cameron, get sloppy. And I think that's really smart. And that's an example of that.
What did you guys think of Michael Baine's performance in this movie?
He had a pretty, we talk about how the villain is usually the more interesting character. In this case, Reese is pretty darn interesting because honestly, the Terminator is not interesting. His setting and where he comes from is interesting, but as a character, he's specifically character. I don't mean the way he's portrayed and the things he does. I mean, he has cool lines, he does cool things, but Reese is much more interesting because he can and will tell us, oh, there was a nuclear war. Oh, the machines came out. There was this, there was that.
Well, the whole joke of the character, not joke of the Terminator character is that he does look human, but he is the stiffest robot since Gort.
Yeah.
Imagine a road trip with the two of them. The conversation's not going to be great.
Hey, I've got a Joel question for you guys. As most people know, Arnold was originally up for the role of Reese, and either Lance Henriksen or somebody else is going to play the Terminator. But let's just switch it. Michael Biehn is the Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger is Reese.
No.
As much more sense that makes because
it does make more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to be an infiltration unit. You've got a 6'2" Austrian bodybuilder with a thick accent. How many times is he going to infiltrate? Not too many.
Okay, thick accent and absolutely perfectly maintained hair.
Mm-hmm.
That part, it's so smooth. Yeah, that's one of the things that trips the BS alarm. If he is coming from this time, because I mean they can make sure the skin looks great, but that hair is going to get messed up by all the stuff going on in there like that.
It just
he's going to look like Ed Grimley.
It as silly as it is to have Arnold play the Terminator, it works better, plain and simple for me. Anyway.
It's theatrical as hell.
And I think too.
I'm sorry.
I think too, like when you look at Schwarzenegger's body and physique, and you're saying he came from a future where mankind was barely surviving, and yet here's this muscle-bound guy, it would just that wouldn't be realistic. I think Michael Biehn's character sort of fits the physique of what a human would look like if they're barely surviving, like from a food standpoint, from an annihilation standpoint,
I can explain this one.
Yeah.
I can explain it. He was designed to go to Southern California in the mid 1980s. In the decadent period in the mid 1980s. If we posit that, and that's why they sort of equipped him the way that they did, then that makes sense. Or they still are having to obey certain physical principles that the bigger something is, the stronger it's going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And so they have to have some sort of meaty chassis to go over it, or covering to go over the chassis. And so they have to go with that. But I think you can just say he was designed to come to LA, at that period.
I've always thought that they picked a bigger person because the endoskeleton is a bigger creature, and to fit something under it, it
was either that or Paula Poundstone. Exactly.
As there's I don't know if it's internet or what, but there's a great theory that I don't know how serious it is, but I really do like it. Arnold's Terminator is based off of Dutch from Predator. So think about it. You got these little pockets of resistance. Here comes this guy that's killed an alien. Well known. He's special forces. Are you going to let him in? Of course you're going to let him in.
Butch, take a look at the timeline on the releases of those.
Let's see what.
It's that way.
1990.
Well, that's Predator 2. Was 1990.
Predator.
Joel?
Predator 1 was 87. 87 release.
87.
And Terminator was 84.
Yeah.
But that's why I say it's internet theory. I just kind of like it. It makes a little more sense.
Oh, it's a great theory. Yeah.
No,
I think all the Sergeant Candy stuff.
Yeah. In the novels, there is a guy named Dieter. I forget his last name. Mm-hmm. It's basically Arnold. Not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it's an Austrian guy who's a bodybuilder who teams up with them, and that's who that Terminator is based off of.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So Reese has the unfortunate task of trying to save Sarah Connor and find her in the same process. He's sort of stalking her too. He also has the one advantage he has actually. He has a picture of her, so he knows what she looks like. which John Connor, Sarah's son, gave to him. So that's how he's able to sort of find her first. But she's sort of creeped out because two reasons. Number one, she's heard about the other Sarah Connors being killed off. And so when she sees him, she's wondered, hey, is this the guy doing it? Which is a natural reaction. She calls the cops at this place, this techno place. I think there's somebody following you. Think, no. You need to say, I know someone's following. But I like that she's sort of not sure. And she's just hanging out in this public place. Arnold Schwarzenegger hears as he kills Sarah Connor's friends. She calls her friends, leaves a voice message, and well, he hears it and goes to where she is. So, what did you guys think of the first real shootout between Arnold and Reese, the Terminator?
It's propulsive. Are you talking about with the cars?
Well, before the cars,
Techno
there's a scene in that place where Reese shoots Arnold through the glass, and one of the more iconic lines to "Come with me if you want to live" by Reese is uttered. What did you guys think of that, Butch?
It's Tech Noir is the name of the club that she's in, which is a description that James Cameron used to describe this film, which I like. If I remember correctly, so both of you jump and tell me if I'm wrong. If you had watched this film for the first time, you're not sure who the killer is.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of, hey, somebody's following me. Actually, two people are following you. We don't trying to save you. So, that is something I think is kind of lost because we know now, pretty much everybody knows, oh, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's the bad guy. But that's a great scene that I think gets underappreciated because of that, because you don't know. And then we get to proceed to have a shootout at a club, which unfortunately happens much more common these days. There's in the script, one of the human pieces of the Terminator is there is a human heart pumping blood, and that's why the skin is alive.
Really? So I didn't know that.
He shoots him in the chest.
Oh,
the heart. That's why the Terminator skin starts to rot later in the film, because the heart has stopped pumping blood.
That's really smart. That's really smart.
It's a great, it almost feels bad to call it a great scene because of unfortunate implications that we're not really going to get into because that's not fair. It's what would happen if you sent a killer robot to kill the future leader's mother, and you get to have one guy kind of help him. It's a great scene. That great line, "Come with me if you want to live." It reminds me of the few times that I actually went to a club where she's like talking on the phone and what? I would have friends sometimes, let's go to the club, we'll meet somebody. And you're like trying to talk. What?
Yeah. No, thanks. But it's a perfect depiction of that. Yeah. And the frustration of it, this is just as well. It's not just as bad as the bullets, but it's this movie's about human frustration all over, and machine frustration also.
I've seen how certain communication tends to work at a club. I won't talk about it though, because it's not appropriate. But anyway, also Patrick was saying, the great car chase sequence between the Terminator and Reese, where he's shooting the shotgun, the Terminator shooting back at him. What did you guys think, Patrick?
It is a better and better stunted and orchestrated car chase shootout scene than we should have. I mean, talk about evidence of what a great filmmaker James Cameron is. Right there. I mean, the moment he says, take the wheel, and he's out and he's shooting, it all makes total sense. We see all of the dangers coming, even though we're not shown them. We just kind of see a lot of it through his reaction and her reaction. Um, it's a wonderful little centerpiece of action in the movie, and I don't feel like I've seen anything like it, certainly in films prior to that.
No.
And then it ends. I love the music that plays during that scene. That really helps build the suspense. Everything Patrick just said. It is an amazing scene. It's, again, $6 million. This movie cost $6 million. I feel like there's a metaphor there with Terminator and the Bionic Man and $6 million. But this does not look like a $6 million film. And the ending of the scene, Reese is going to fight the cops. She's like, no, Reese. And she's like, okay, the cops, we're okay. We're safe. And Terminator's like, and apparently, he does Reese uses the cop's shotgun, which actually does some damage to him. So the Terminator's like, I don't know if I can take out these cops. So I'll go away, wait and wait for another more opportunity to attack.
And he does. There's going to be one of the most iconic lines as he goes in and he starts questioning the desk sergeant about Sarah Connor. And she's taking a statement.
Wait! I want to interrupt you because there's a great, quick little scene. The psychiatrist, Dr. Silverman, is walking out, and his beeper goes off, and he turns and he hits it, and he walks out the door just as Schwarzenegger's coming in.
Yeah. And
it's done so well, so that way when we see Silverman in 2 and in 3. He had no idea. He completely misses the massacre. And 2, I just love that scene. It's just like, you don't know what you just missed. Yeah. But please continue. I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there. I love that scene.
No, you're right. He does. He doesn't. In 2, when they're showing the photos of him at the mall, we know who this guy is. The guy because they just think it's the same guy, the same the same dude. Because it looks like him just years later.
Yeah, well.
And he's like, and she doesn't answer. And all he can say is, sorry, guys. She slips her and brother every day. Because he didn't see it. He didn't see the guy. And in this, Arnold just leans in. I'll be back. And, he'll be back with his car and drives right through into the building. All hell breaks loose, gunfire, cops are getting killed left and right. Holy shit, what a scene. Yeah. Butch, what did you think about it?
Well, again, unfortunately, that makes us, through modern eyes, there's things there we don't like to draw parallels to. But it shows you, just like any horror movie, any slasher film, nowhere is safe. You're literally in, there's even that line in Assault on Precinct 13. Well, I'm in a police station surrounded by cops. Where could I be more safer?
No.
Not here. It's just, and the way he does it, I was reading Arnold practice for over a month with guns, loading, unloading, stripping, reassembly, and doing it blindfolded so he could do it very mechanical, very so it would look like a machine. And that's what a hunter killer evil robot with flesh skin, walk down, kick the door in, kill that one, walk down, here's another one, kill it. And it's not, there's no malice, there's no,
it's a job, it's a mission.
Yeah, it's just you're in the way of his objective.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, what did you think of that scene?
Which one?
The police station shootout.
It's a great scene. Here's the thing. These are very fine questions, but it is yet another spectacular shootout in a movie full of spectacular shootouts. So I can only respond, that was a spectacular shootout so many times. But it's great. It's terrific. It's a wonderfully choreographed piece, and I think it works not only because of the action, choreography and so on, but because we have learned to individualize and care about the characters who are being jeopardized in those moments. They're real people for us.
Yeah.
I like that.
What did you?
Yeah. Hey guys, listen. As much as I would love to stay with you, I am not feeling great. I'm very verklempt here and all of that. Yeah. So you guys go from me if you want to live, and I will see you tomorrow or next week or anything like that. Is that okay?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Feel better.
Thank you very much. Have a great night. Avoid the future.
You too, Patrick.
Bye.
I don't. Hey, while we got just to say, I don't know if you saw this because you were looking down. Did you see this?
Yes, very nice.
I saw this at the first Fanboy, not literally this particular box, but I saw that at the first Fanboy I ever went to, which is a convention down here in Tennessee. And I looked at it, and I don't know if you can. I mean, just if you can look at, maybe I can get close enough. That is one of the best looking face sculpts I've seen. And I started to buy it. I didn't buy it. And literally until the next time I went to the convention, it's like, I don't care. You know, if I have to go hungry for a few days, you know, if I have to, you know, drive the car and keep putting it in neutral and not use gas, I've got to have it. And I walked around at the second one and found another one and purchased it. And it's one of the, of course, the NEC or NECA is the guy that I bought it from. Called him. All of their figures look great, but that is such a good looking figure. I want to throw that out again.
It is, man. It looks awesome. What did you think of the voice impression they used with the phone? Because the Terminator goes to Big Bear to Sarah Connor's mother's cabin. Sarah Connor's mother obviously dies. The cabin is pretty much destroyed, and you know, when Sarah Connor calls, you know, her mother not really answers the phone. Yeah. What did you think of that?
It showed how utterly screwed they were. And if you look in the background when the camera's panning through the destroyed cabin, you'll see these, I think it's a pair of legs on a table. And to me, the implication was she was tortured.
Yeah.
Probably nothing else to hear her scream so he could get the voice in his ears so he could duplicate it. Not that he was necessarily expecting it, but he heard the voice, you know, it again, it kind of reminds me, think of Rob Zombie's Halloween when D. Wallace Stone goes in and Michael Myers is there and he's like, you know, throwing across the table and smashing her in the wall, looking, he's like holding up the picture of Laurie Strode and he, you know, like, where is she? He doesn't say it, of course, in that film. But yeah, the thing is it's amazing that there's only one creature, one killer after them. But it's like no matter where they go, he's going to find them. And you know, Reese does all the smart stuff and Sarah doesn't listen and to him and oh mom, we're over here at the Big Bear cabin. We're here, you know, because like when the Terminator, after he kills the first two non-right Sarah Connors, he goes to Sarah's house. Well, Sarah's not there. Her roommate is. You know, God bless her boyfriend. He puts up a fight. He tries, and the roommate and her boyfriend end up dead. Well, Sarah calls, and he hears a message, and that's when he knows to go to take Noir. Sarah calls and talks to mom at the cabin. And then they Terminator knows her again. It's like, Sarah, stop calling people.
Yeah, right. It's like, just stop. You made a phone call. That's what happened. That's why things went bad. I keep thinking a line from The Enemy of the State where Gene Hackman blows up the building. Why'd you do it? Because you made a phone call. It's like, Jesus Christ. And that's the thing here, too. Like, you're not expecting the Terminator to be able to do that. And when he does, it's like you said, it's like, oh, God, they are so screwed. It's like they're just, no matter what.
I have wanted to, without specifically playing the Terminator, but in a role playing game, have a character kind of based on the Terminator's ability. You know, he's from the future. He's a cyborg. You know, he's strong. He's got all this knowledge, and he can mimic, you know, the voices and just the things in a role playing game you can do. Oh, well, I'm going to call him and tell him I'm so and so. You know, the things you could do with that. But every time I would bring something up, no, you're not playing the Terminator. It's like, I'm not wanting to play the Terminator. It's just he gave me the idea.
Yeah. So that's funny when I played Fallout New Vegas, and what that game is now. It wasn't that at launch. The game's better now. I created Lamont Cranston, the Shadow, and when you're filling out the questions, it's like, what would you do with a robber or something? And I just scrolled right down to vaporize and clicked that. Like, yeah, that's what the Shadow would do. Vaporize. And that's what I do. I shoot first, and I don't ask no questions. And I aim for the head. And I do my own laugh because they don't laugh in the game. And my wife just looks at me like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I live with that every day. So
she lives with that every day.
That is true. That is true. She'll appreciate that, Butch. She really will. Anyway, with this movie, it just when they make love and stuff, it's like you now realize who the father is, and it's like right there you sort of know. Well, in a horror movie, when sex generally happens, somebody's gonna die. And it's our pal Reese. He puts up a hell of a fight though. Gets killed at the factory. My favorite scene in this is obviously the 18-wheeler truck driving stuff. The dynamite in the tailpipe. Boom. What's your favorite scene in Terminator, Butch?
Oh, good Lord. I don't know. I can't pick one, Jewel. I mean, I love the scene with the punks at the beginning. I'll be back. And I'm talking about the whole scene there, not just where he says I'll be back. Really, it's the Terminator. I mean, this is the movie that made me an Arnold fan. And as I got older and started watching more horror films, the scene where you're talking about where they're fighting in the street and the tractor trailer comes along, runs over, and explodes. And you're thinking, okay, fine, they're safe. And then they're in that fire. Up comes the endoskeleton, and you're like, oh my God. Think of however many slasher films and horror films where they go over to make sure that the bad guy's dead. And of course he's not. He's just playing possum. This really is a science fiction horror film. This is a science fiction slasher film, you know, with some dressings and some plenty of things added to it. You know, you talk about how Reese is, you know, we find out Reese is the father. I used to always kid, yeah, that's the scene for all the guys to go get popcorn and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But it added another layer that made this film unforgettable, that predestination that he had to come back to father John, because so then she'll have John, and then in the future John will send him back so he can father John, you know, and you just start having that loop.
Yeah.
And I remember not too long after I saw the film, I used to read Starlog magazine. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It was pretty much the best known science fiction magazine in the nation. And people would draw pictures of Sarah and Reese and you know, two ships passing in the night, star-crossed lovers, and you know, even then I thought that was a little hokey, but by the same token, that's part of the appeal of it.
Yeah.
It's, you know, everything about this film brings people back in, and it's very memorable.
Yeah. It really is, because it's it's really Kyle Reese's fate to be John's father. I mean, ultimately, John knows this, and they had won the war, and basically the result of the war is being fought in the past. If John Connor's born, you're going to win the war. If he's not, the machines will probably win the war.
Well, now here's the thing, and there is a website that I don't have the name of, but you can Google timelines of Terminator. That this is at least the third time a Terminator has been sent back. There's the first one where there's that first timeline, the pure timeline, if you will. There's the war, and they lose, and they send back. This comes through again, and then then Reese comes back. So this is the third time. Each Terminator film is a separate timeline, and I don't know, or at least in my opinion, they are. And I don't know how many people catch that, because each time you're bringing back something new and introducing it, and therefore changing. If I go back in time to stop your parents from having sex, I'm introducing a new element.
No.
Even if I stop them for an hour, it may not be you, it may be somebody else.
Yeah.
So each time when you introduce it, therefore, when I go back to stop you from being born or kill my grandfather or whatever,
No.
that's because of something. So therefore, there's a different timeline, a divergent timeline. That website that I was talking about, oh my good Lord, I love alternate timelines and stuff, and it was just to a point where it's like, this is making my head hurt.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting if you're a pretty big Terminator fan, and as you can tell, I'm pretty good. Not only am I pretty good size, but I'm a big Terminator fan also. I just find that as a website really interesting and incredible, and recommend everyone check that one out.
So I have to ask you a hypothetical question. What would happen if Jason Voorhees would verse the Terminator?
You butt wipe, because I was going to ask both of you that same question. I went around and asked some like-minded friends at work, and most I got, I don't know. And one guy, he's like, what's Jason Voorhees going to do? Cut his flesh off? He goes, and now in the scenario I come up with, it's Jason after part 6, after the resurrection.
Yeah.
Because then, you got two implacable men. You got two determinators, and no pun intended. Sarah and John cut through Camp Crystal Lake. Terminator follows them. Jason's like, who the hell's in my land? Sets it up. It'd make a great short film, I think. Well, then after David said, he goes, well, what's Jason going to do? And I'm like, he's going to cause some damage. But anyway.
Yeah, he is.
All right. Let me ask you this. Both of them, okay, you take this model of Terminator that we see just in Terminator 1.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that have seen Jason X, when he gets the upgrade with the nanobites.
Yeah.
Now that's probably a closer fight.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of both. If you take Jason, regular Jason, and a Terminator, I think they keep fighting until Sarah and John leave Camp Crystal Lake, and then the Terminator follows them. And in Jason's mind, he won because he broke that guy off. Now, when you get to basically just the endoskeleton and Uber Jason, as they say he's sometimes called, from Jason X, and that's a toss up. I even asked Skynet. Chat GPT, GPS, whatever it's called. It's like who would fight between Jason Voorhees and the Terminator? And it's like, it depends on where it's at and what are the setting, the scenario. And in my mind, that's kind of how it ends. Either one of them leaves, i.e. the Terminator, because Jason's not leaving Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
Or it depends. There's so many variables because they're pretty close. It's kind of like, who wins between Superman and Thor? That's the big argument. It can go either way, truthfully. Who do you think?
If it's Uber Jason and Terminator, God, that would be tough. But I think with Uber Jason, like even if it was in Camp Crystal Lake, I don't think it would be about leaving because Jason is just such a driven, even more of a driven killer when he gets turned into Uber Jason. So I'm gonna go with Uber Jason to take out the Terminator because if you now both, I'll say this: the Terminator has one edge. It's a lot smarter than what Jason is in a
Jason's
sense.
just brute force.
Yeah, Jason's more brute force. I think that's the one edge that the Terminator would have is, okay, where do I have to strike to kill this guy, or whatever he is. And if it's to decapitate Jason, then that's what the Terminator is going to do. He's going to have a hell of a time doing it, but he'll
Yeah.
try. You know what I mean? So I think it would be a great like one-off versus. My my versus would be now because we've had. I remember RoboCop and versus the Terminator the game. That was a lot of fun to play. But one that I would have loved to have seen for fun would be the Terminator versus the Xenomorphs. Holy shit, that would be insane.
I think that one really depends on the xenomorph's acid blood.
Yeah.
The skeleton, if it can, then we got to fight. Otherwise, it's like stick them, shut the door, come back 20 minutes later. Here walks out the Terminator, probably mostly endoskeleton, because it's destroyed the flesh. It's like, and he walks out. But yeah, if that's the great thing with these kind of films is you can play those what if, who wins. In Mortal Kombat has actually had the Xenomorph, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and the Terminator, and Rambo. But we'll pull Rambo back in because Rambo's, bless his heart, he just don't fit in. Unfortunately, Xenomorphs and Jason are in the same game. I think it's also the same one with Leatherface. And Freddy's in the previous game, and Terminator is in another game. So I was thinking, Nate, wouldn't it be cool if you could there was like a horror fighting game?
Oh yeah, I beat him up.
You have to go with balance. So otherwise everybody's gonna play Jason or their favorite character, and he's always gonna win.
There's an Alien versus Predator beat 'em up with Dutch as one of the main characters. Dutch has teamed up with the Predators to take on the Xenomorphs. I shit you not.
Wow.
That was a game one. It's still a game. I don't know where you can find it, but I've seen it be played. I'll have to send you the video if I can find it. But it is a cool checkout. You could tell it's supposed to be Arnold Schwarzenegger's Dutch. You know what I mean? But it's a cool game that I've seen of. I was watching somebody play it. I'll try to find the video and send it to you. Another thing too about like verses that was funny that was always brought up to my brother would bring when my brother was alive, he would bring this up, and I laughed, and I wasn't laughing at him. I was just laughing at the. He goes, "Who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman?" And I said, "Well, let's be real. First of all, if they fought, and I mean if, right? Vegeta is not gonna let anybody kill fucking Goku because he wants to do it. So you know what's gonna happen? Vegeta is gonna have kryptonite behind his back and be close enough to Superman, and like so we know damn well that answer. It's like you can't just with certain ones, you can't just say, well, this one versus this one, especially when they have an arch nemesis who's a complete asshole and wants to kill that person so bad for themselves. They're not going to let anyone the hell else do it. It's like Wolverine and Sabretooth.
Joker and Batman.
Yeah, well, Yeah, but Batman has a no kill policy. Well.
I'm referring to Joker and be like, no, 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 you're not killing him. I am.
Oh yeah, yeah. now, now with there's characters who it's funny. Somebody asked, would the Shadow recruit Red Hood from Batman? And I said, no, the Shadow would kill Red Hood from Batman because Red Hood's too out of control. Said there's no control there. The Shadow actually has control over what he does. He kills out of necessity, not just. I mean, yeah, it's in cold blood. Don't get me wrong, but it's a necessity. He's not just capping people left and right. Well, sometimes.
They've kind of moved a little bit beyond that with Red Hood, which I like. But my first thought is the minute Jason Todd comes back, and the minute he he's got his mind back and everything, fuck Bruce. He's going after the Joker, and he's putting the Joker in the grave.
Yeah, Batman Under the Red Hood is a great movie, by the way. If you haven't watched it, really, I have it on DVD. It's a great movie.
Right over there.
Great pickup. It's just a fun watch. By the way, the guy who voices Joe DiMaggio, who voices the Joker, he voices Bender. He did a great job voicing the Joker in that movie. But back to the Terminator, it would be so much fun to see like a couple different verses. But now the Terminator franchise has come a long way. There's been several movies, obviously. So I got to ask you the inevitable question, Butch. Do you want to see a reboot?
A reboot? No.
Okay.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put part of the blame on Terminator 2.
Okay.
Personally, I wish that there had never been any sequel.
No.
Because you get into the gotta one up it with each sequel.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 is a great film. I don't think there's any. I'm sure there's some people that don't like it, and they should all go have their heads examined. But then you lead into Terminator 3, which is played out to be. It's going to be the same. We gotta stop the other Terminator. Save John, and it does two things that I really like. One. And no offense to Linda Hamilton, but they kill off Sarah.
Yeah.
Once John's born, Sarah is irrelevant. I hate to be that code about it, but once John's born, we don't really need her.
No.
But if I presume you've seen all the Terminators, so spoiler: at the end of Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, they let the nuclear war happen. And I'm like, oh, thank God. That was my favorite part of the whole film.
Yeah.
It forces them to stop making, we've got to send back a Terminator and a Terminator to fight for and save Sarah. So we can't make that film anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to Terminator 4 Salvation. And for the most part, I liked it. I wish they'd gone with the original ending, but that's a whole nother thing in there.
Yeah.
What was 5? Was 5 Genesis?
Yeah, 5 is Genesis.
And then 6 was Dark Fate. The problem with there were some parts of Genesis I really liked. With the CGI at the beginning with the CGI young Arnold and the old Arnold fighting young Arnold, that I loved.
Yeah.
I loved that so much. And having read a lot of what I forget the writer's name was that did it, he wanted to get into the multiverse. The Pops character was sent back. Who sent him back? And it's from another universe, that Terminator. And I love that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, I wish had done better.
Yeah.
Then we get to Dark Fate, which is not a bad film. But it's like, oh, we're back to saving. Well, it's not Sarah anymore, but we're back to saving the mother and it's of the future resistance fighter. Either A, let the franchise die,
Yeah.
Or B, and I don't normally do this, but again with Skynet slash Chat GPS, I asked it. I said, write me a Terminator sequel, and right away it starts with when they win, they defeat Terminator, they defeat Skynet,
Yeah.
and then on down the road, there's a new Skynet coming up and a new leader, and they have to fight it. And I'm like, okay, this is a good idea. We don't need to see necessarily time travel to save Sarah again or save John again.
Yeah.
I mean, like everybody else, I love this franchise and I've enjoyed, every time one's come out, I've tried to be there opening weekend.
Yeah.
But after a while, it's like, it feels like we're just making the same film over and over.
Yeah.
So unless they're doing something new with it, the franchise die. Again, that might be kind of cruel, but that's how I feel. You?
I think Genesis had some good parts to it. I don't think it was complete crap.
No.
I think that the idea of Pops is a hell of an idea. Alternate reality, an alternate universe. Because the one cop, the one actor played too, he was like trying to solve stuff about certain aspects too. And I wish they would have kept his character like alive, because that character was interesting too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, look, I get it. The movie's called Terminator. People got to die. That's fine. But you want to keep your intriguing characters who are going off of your own sort of weird subplot around to sort of try to figure out what the hell exactly is going on. Because even the bad Terminator who is in John Connor's body or whatever says, "Who sent you back?" Great line. He doesn't even know. And that's
I'm gonna give Dark Fate one thing really quick.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, they kill John Connor.
Yep.
I'm like, hell yeah! All right, we're not watching the same thing, and unfortunately, it turns back to be the same thing. But there is no point in remaking the same film over and over and over, and trying to tell us you're doing something new when you're not. I mean, Rio Bravo, El Dorado, Rio Lobo are all the same story.
Yeah.
There's differences in them, and as an adult, you can look at it. Okay, John Wayne's going to win. We know that, but it's not so much the point A to point B or point whatever. It's how we get there.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the Terminator sequels just, okay, like Patrick was talking about. Oh, here's a funny line from before. Here's come with me if you want to live. Here's I'll be back. Here's whatever. And sometimes I think they're a little too cute with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think it would have been interesting if they would, when they killed John Connor, well, that's when the whole fabric of reality cracks and you open that multiverse. Because John Connor never dies until now, because you've messed with time so much.
Mm-hmm.
You've altered it to the degree that you've now fractured everything, and the multiverse is open. That Terminator could have beat Marvel to the punch years ago.
Oh yeah,
and didn't. But that's a whole nother matter. Oh my God. I have no more questions for you, Butch. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
Yeah, 2 quick notes I have jotted down here. One, the 45 long slide with the laser sight. The laser sights at the time had a battery pack, and it actually had a cord, and it went up Schwarzenegger's sleeve. That was that long, and it talks about everything I was reading. I mean, I usually I watch the film before we talk about it. I have no need to watch this. I have watched this film so many times, but I did a lot of reading, and there's some really interesting stuff. One of my favorite points about this was they did a lot of what they called guerrilla filmmaking. In other words, they'd show up, film, and leave before the police got there. They didn't have the correct. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't get permission, wrote out. They didn't have all that. So like there's one time where James Cameron called Arnold Schwarzenegger and told him to show up in costume at 3 a.m. to do a pickup.
They didn't have permits to film. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
I had to think about it. Sorry.
Brain isn't working.
Neither was mine. I was thinking about what you were trying to say. I'm like, oh, that's right.
This is a great film. We've done, I think, 3 low budget films that don't look low budget.
Yeah.
That tell great stories. And as much as I respect and enjoy a lot of Roger Corman's films, looking at the films like this, his if you will, his disciples like James Cameron, Ron Howard, and Brian De Palma, those kind of folks did. One of the things they learned is a lot of these films keep going, so you don't see, quote, the low budgetness of it. And even now, when you look at Terminator, like you can tell that when he's the skeleton's chasing her, that it's a puppet, but you don't care because you're in. I mean,
yeah.
That's the way you do that. You don't really. You give the audience time to breathe, but at your select points, like the sex scene or at the police station, and that way they're more interested in the film. Like Patrick said, you have interesting characters, you care about them. It's not just, hey, we're shooting it. I think Terminator 2 says they're killed at the police station. Character-wise, we don't care so much about the cops except for Paul Warfield and Lance Henriksen, because that's the only 2 we get to know.
Yeah. I think it was interesting that they wanted Lance Henriksen as the Terminator. But he was still in the movie, but great actor, by the way.
Oh yeah.
It's it is my turn to pick for next week. And I am going to actually pick a Western. It is a Western. It is Major Dundee.
Oh, such a good film.
I know. I was saving this one. Was waiting. I'm like, we need to do an actual Western. Which one should I choose? Because I had 3 in mind. I had this. I had Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. And I had the first Young Guns movie. And I chose this one. So.
I'm going to tell you something, Joe. I may have mentioned this before. If I had, I'm sorry, I'm repeating it. And sorry, these glasses are starting to hurt my head. I have never seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Really?
Not like sat down and watched the way through. I've seen scenes, I've seen bits and pieces, I've seen parts of it, but to sit down and watch it, I have never seen it.
Can I give you my conspiracy theory about Butch and Sundance?
Go for it.
I don't think they died. I think that was all bullshit.
Did they kill them, or was it just the story they came up with?
I think it's the story they came up with, and because there's a historical. I think it's Butch Cassidy's mother had said she received a letter. The army came to her and told her son was dead. Okay, an army rider.
Mm-hmm.
And your son died, whatever, 70, a month ago. She goes, a month ago. He died. No, he's not. He's like, why? He said, well, I got a letter from him 2 weeks ago. I believe the mother. No offense to anybody.
Yeah.
Just, why would the mother make that up? She would. So, I think I'll get into it when we ever do the movie, because I have some real issues with the whole Butch and Sundance, and I've always have when I first heard the historical facts behind it and shit. And it involves an attorney that Butch Cassidy saved an attorney's life in a bar fight. And that attorney was very, very powerful, high up. But I will get into it when we do that movie one day. But next week, we're doing a really great movie, a great Western, Major Dundee, which a certain actor ended up doing for free.
Charlton Heston.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Make sure if Patrick is with us, have him do his Charlton Heston impersonation. He does a fantastic job. Bad impersonation of Patrick's impersonation. And what was fun? Hey, quickly before we go, I used to work at a shop at home channel, and sometimes at night, I don't know if it was in my head, I got tired or what, working third shift, but sometimes Charlton would come in and work, and he'd be like, "Thank you for calling Jury Television. This is Butch. How can I help you?" It's like, "Stop it!" I'd let it go the first time. It's like, "Stop it!" And there were times I couldn't stop it. He would just keep coming back, Joel. I tell you, it's not very. I don't know why I close my eyes like that, but every time I do,
that's a good impersonation.
I close mine away.
I believe it. Oh my god, his Dan Curtis impersonation is funny as shit. But still, that's Butch Rosenbalm. I'm Joel Sage. We'll see you guys next Friday. Have a good weekend, buddy.
You too, bud. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.